Objection!
One of the more interesting elements for the final season of Friendship is Magic was bringing back the show's biggest villains for one last hurrah, including Cozy Glow, Queen Chrysalis, Lord Tyrek, and King Sombra. The mastermind of assembling this impressive rogues gallery was Grogar. Of course, in this series finale, we discovered that it was Discord in disguise the whole time. This turned out to be kind of a controversial decision, with some fans loving the twist, while others were disappointed that we didn't get the real Grogar. Me personally, I was fine with it. The villains we've been dealing with throughout the show have direct connection with our heroes and the audience, and to throw in a new villain at this point wouldn't have had as much of an impact. It's like in Endgame how the Thanos the Avengers have been dealing with during this whole conflict dies at the beginning of the movie, and the Thanos that they fight in the latter half is just another Thanos that is obviously evil and is going to wipe out half the universe, but still has no personal connection to our heroes because he's not the one who snapped everyone and their friends out of existence. Also, if you want to see me and Silverquill's thoughts on Grogar and the rest of the G4 series finale, go ahead and check out our collab together for fun, zany times. Now, circling back on that incredibly long setup, what if in fact the Grogar that brings back all the villains together was real? What if this father of all monsters was the genuine article and not Discord? Would Season 9 and the finale play out that much differently? Well, today we'll take a look and see what happens if the main six and all of Equestria faced off against the real Grogar. Now, we do have to take some artistic liberties during this discussion, as most of the exposition we learned about Grogar was actually from Discord, thus everything we're told about him from the Draconiquus's perspective. On the other hoof, it's been established that he can travel between dimensions and even view past events, thus it's plausible that Discord would travel through time to research past Grogar, including his appearance and various powers, thus giving him the knowledge to make this charade as authentic as possible. So it's likely that what Grocourt says could be very true. There are also the perspectives of tales that Tyrek, Sombra, and Chrysalis know about him, so that does lend further credence to what we can go by. Again, even though most of what this video is going to be is just fun speculation. With that being said, let's begin with his backstory. So we know that he is an ancient and extremely powerful being that existed long before the Equestria we know today, one that was primarily a rural pasture land. The self-proclaimed emperor of the world and father of all monsters created some of the most foulest creatures in all the land to run rampant and do as they please, bringing a chaotic era of darkness and destruction. Of course, his efforts were halted when Gusty the Great stole his bell, crippling the ram's power. The bell could not be destroyed, so it was hidden in an enchanted cave on top of Mount Everhoof, where it has resided for thousands of moons. So now let's take a look at the powers that Grogar theoretically possessed. As we've established, he's the father of all monsters, so therefore, we can imagine he can conjure up some pretty powerful creatures that could bring some decent levels of destruction. His bell, of course, is the main source of his power, and having something that cannot be destroyed and always on his person ensures that a direct attack is a losing battle. The primary threat of the bell is its ability to steal magic from any living beings. So again, even the most powerful unicorns of his time and modern times could instantly be nullified of their power. He seems to be also capable of creating dark illusions with his magic, and he can apparently give away aspects of his power to strengthen others. He also has his orb that allows him to see any event in time apparently, giving him insight on his enemies. As far as his offensive abilities go, he seems to be able to do most magic you would see from a unicorn, like teleportation, restraint, magic blast, telekinesis, etc. So now, taking all his backstory and his supposed abilities into account, let's remove fake Grogar from the equation and see how things would play out if the real Grogar returned. Starting off, after his bell was lost, it would make sense that he would go into hiding for thousands of moons to slowly regain his power, striking at the most opportune time. It's also believable that he would be aware of the major villain's attempts and subsequent failures due to his orb. This would also allow him to study his greatest threats and their weaknesses to finally take over Equestria proper. Part of the plan would be, of course, to gather the greatest villains in the world and form an alliance with them. Grogar would, of course, return T-Rex power as a demonstration to get them on his side, and from there the story would progress as we saw, with Songbird going his own way and ultimately failing, with the other three agreeing to the alliance. With the group now united, Grogar would then inform them about losing his full power with the absence of his bell, but after years of research, he's finally found its location. Now, instead of sending the three alone to acquire it, he would accompany them on their journey, and through teamwork, they would all retrieve the bell and share its power equally amongst each other and power everyone up. Afterwards, they'll begin planning to finally take over Equestria. Grogar informs them that the power of friendship is what led to each of the villains' demise, thus they'll plant seeds of deception to have unicorns, earth ponies, and pegasi fighting against each other. Then amidst the chaos, they'll attempt to covertly take down each of the greatest threats to their plan, including Discord, Celestia, Luna, Cadence, Twilight, and the rest of the main six. Twilight and her friends would ultimately escape, but with Discord's phenomenal cosmic powers out of the way, along with capturing the Alicorn's magic, Grogar is now armed with the most powerful magic in Equestria, and uses his newly acquired magic on himself to return to full power, and begins conjuring up creatures to begin tormenting the land once more. Of course, the self-proclaimed Emperor of Equestria is not gonna share his throne with anyone else, so he betrays Cozy, T-Rex, and Chrysalis, stealing their power and sending creatures to chase them off. Now Equestria is plagued by the chaos of numerous dangerous creatures roaming across the land, every race hitting each other, the Wendigos have returned, threatening to plunge Equestria into a frozen nightmare.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Eventually, we get the final battle between Twilight and crew against Grogar, with the Ram using all his magic and creatures at his disposal. Now yes, he could just use the bell at any time to steal their magic, but due to his hubris, he's essentially toying with them, showing off his immense power. The main six attempt a good fight, but are ultimately overwhelmed by him. He prepares to destroy them in one powerful blast, but the cavalry arrives to save the day, even Chrysalis, Cozy, and T-Rex getting in on the fight, more so to take revenge for the betrayal. Grogar sees the potential threat and opportunity with the arrival of this cavalry. With a larger force around, he admittedly has to be more careful. However, he sees the chance to steal all of these creatures' magic. Amidst the chaos, dust, and debris, he now sees his moment to steal everyone's magic, but upon reaching for the bell, he finds it's been stolen by Pinkie Pie and replaced by a regular dinner bell.
I am inevitable.
Of course, they use the bell on him, zapping him and all of his magic. He's turned to stone, day is saved, the once evil triumvirate, while they'll still be punished for their actions, fully embrace friendship and eventually return to society to help others, and everybody lives happily ever after. But anyways, that's my take on the real Grogar appearing in Friendship is Magic. If you guys have any other ideas about how this could go down, let me know in the comments below. And be sure to like and subscribe. Well, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, and see ya!